Hey everyone, today I'm going to be discussing with you the underhood inspection of the vehicle, and the topics that we'll be focusing on will be on how to check the power steering fluid only. So I'm going to be doing the checking of the power steering fluid based on the best practice and the safety procedures when doing this checking of the power steering. So to begin, where I'm gonna show you the common types of power steering system that we have in newer models of the vehicles. One of them is the rack and pinion steering system. It could be a manual steering, or it could be a power steering system. And the other one is this recirculating ball steering system. It could also be a power or a manual type of steering system. But this time, I'm not gonna delve deeper into the discussion of these two in details. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be explaining to you the differences between the two system, between the rack and pinion steering and the other one is circulating ball steering system. So in my future video upload, I'm gonna be discussing to you the details of these two steering system. But right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be discussing to you the normal or the safety procedure or the safety recommendation in doing the checking, the topping up, and adjusting of the hydraulic power steering fluid. This is the rack and pinion that we have right now in newer or even the older models. Okay, you could have a manual steering, or you could have a power steering pump, depending on the type of steering that that you want to purchase with a vehicle. And the difference between this and the other one is the rack and pinion. It has a rack which is directly in line or attached in alignment to the steering column, and it meshes with the rack, which has an hydraulic pistons where this power steering pump supplies to the through the fluid lines into the hydraulic pistons, which then assist the driver to make the steering turning of the steering a bit softer and easy for the steering of the column of the power of the steering wheel, especially when the vehicle is doing maneuvering or backing up from the curb out to the street. And when the vehicle is stationary, it would be difficult for the driver to turn the steering wheel if the steering is not a power steering assist type of hydraulic assist type of steering system. The other one is the recirculating ball. The difference between the other one is the rack and pinion, and this one is equipped with a steering gearbox. Okay, that's why it's called recirculating ball gearbox. But I'm not gonna delve deeper into the details in doing the explanation for this type of, which I'm gonna do it in the next program that I'm gonna be uploading in my next video. So it could be a manual steering, could be power steering, and the hydraulic will assist the driver to make it easy to turn, and will supply the hydraulic to the gearbox. And then the gearbox is attached with a pitman arm and with a rods, and each end of the left and right is attached with a tie rod and with tie rod ends, and the tie rod ends is attached to the steering arm for the left side of the vehicle and of the right side of the vehicle. So most of the driver, they want a hydraulic type of steering, especially with the type of vehicle that is being used off-road, like the pickup truck, which most of the, especially the newer vehicles now, the pickup truck are always, almost always equipped with a power steering type of steering system. Okay, the main part of the power steering is the power steering pump. This steering pump is the one supplies the hydraulic pressure to the rack and pinion, or for the rack and pinion type of steering system, or the recirculating ball gear type of steering system. Okay, and it is directly driven by the engine through this drive pulley. Newer models are having the serpentine type of belt, serpentine belt. Then the older model rather are equipped with the V-type V belts, drive belts. But the newer model now is almost equipped with the serpentine type of drive belts, because the older models, the V type is the issue in that kind of drive belts is always having an issue of the belt is always, when, especially when it gets older, the belt is slipping in the V belt, and it creates a loud noise. Unlike the serpentine belt, it's a low noise type of drive belts. So as I said, the power steering pump is the one, it's directly driven by the engine, and the one supplying hydraulic pressure to the steering system. This is the inner part of the power steering pump. It is equipped with the vanes and rotor, and typically all the steering pump are equipped with a vane and rotor and vane type, or vane type of steering pump, unlike the heavy equipment like a power like a a wheel loader, front end loader, are equipped with a gear type of steering pump. But the vehicle, off-road or on-road or off-road vehicles, are always equipped with the vane-type steering pump, which has a vane inserted to the rotor, a slot rotor, and this type of vane has 10 vanes, okay? 10 pieces of vanes. And there are two housings that will be, assembled together to make it a steering pump function, and is equipped with an integral reservoir for the power steering fluid. The steering pump is always located on the side of the engine block, either left side or right side of the engine block. Okay, and it is directly driven by a belt, serpentine belt, and you can top up the steering pump reservoir directly on the steering pump, which is an integral part of the steering pump, the reservoir. It could be, under the hood at the side of the steering, below the hood. But sometimes it's the reservoir is also installed uh, adjacent to the radiator, just below the hood, and above the level of the engine assembly, to make it easier for access. And it is only equipped with a elongated hose, power steering hose, hydraulic hose, attached to the steering pump, when a mechanic or the owner of the vehicle is topping up or checking the fluid level of this power steering pump. So now I'm gonna discuss with you the safety procedure or the safety recommendations when checking the steering fluid of the power steering pump. So the safety recommendations to use when checking and adjusting power steering fluid will be: first, you have to turn off before checking the fluid level. Make sure that the engine is turned off. Why? Because it is not it is unsafe for the technician or the mechanic to check the fluid when the engine is running. And also the when the engine is running, the when the especially when the engine reaches the normal operating or running temperature, the power steering fluid will expand when it is already hotter. The temperature is already high. Then it would the power steering fluid will overflow from the reservoir of the power steering pump. Okay, so make sure that you turn off the ignition switch off when you are checking under the hood or checking the power steering fluid. Better yet, the you have to you have to refer when you're doing checking, refer to the owner's manual, service manual, or the operating manual when checking the power steering fluid. So make sure that you understand and observe all regulations and personal safety procedures when carrying out this task of checking or underhood checking of the power steering fluid. If you are unsure of what they are, you better ask your supervisor. As I've said, you also check the manuals of this vehicle. The power steering fluid should be at operating temperature to ensure an accurate reading of the fluid level. As I said, when the fluid is cold, the the level will be low on the dipstick. If the engine reaches the normal operating temperature, the power steering fluid gets expanded, and therefore the level will become higher on the dipstick. So make sure when you are uh, normally when you are checking the level, the engine should be run for several minutes, and then you check the oil and make sure, and then you will see that the oil already expanded, and it is on the level of the okay level. Then there no need for you to top up the fluid. But if it is low at normal operating temperature, then you have to top up the oil. So always refer to the shop manual for the recommended type of power steering fluid. The power steering fluid, as well as the ATF or the automatic transmission fluid, are the same. You can use the steering fluid to top up the automatic transmission fluid or the ATF. You can also vice versa. You can also use the ATF or the automatic transmission fluid in topping up the power steering fluid or power steering pump to top up the fluid. So if you have a container of the fluid which says power steering, don't have to worry. You can use that for ATF. Or if the level of the container says ATF or automatic transmission fluid, then you can use that also for the power steering as power steering fluid. So it's vice versa. Now, oils and fluids tend to expand in volume, as I said earlier, when they are heated. So the manufacturer has specified an optimum level of the power steering fluid. You have to find this out in the manual. And it is assumed that when the fluid is hot, it will be at this level as shown in the illustration. If the fluid is cold, it may be at lower level. And then when you're doing the topping up of the, usually the power steering fluid does not have a change in scheduled change interval, because the steering fluid does not get contaminated or does not get dirty for a longer time. Unlike the engine lubrication system oil gets dirty or it gets contaminated, you know, because the engine oil is gets dirty, it's get contaminated because of the engine is getting, it's getting at higher temperature when it's often operated, because of the engine having a combustion chamber with gasoline or petrol or diesel. When the fuel, gets into and mixes with the in the sump, mixes with the oil, so the oil getting contaminated because of the process of combustion, where some of the fuel, mixes with the oil in the sump or in the oil pan, because of the blow by happening in the combustion chamber. The fuel or the fuel mixtures, you know, uh, goes through the piston ring, because of the long operation of the engine, and the piston ring or the piston is uh, when the piston ring is worn out already, so some of the fuel mixes with the oil in the sump through the process of the uh, blow by of the engine pistons in the combustion chamber. So when you top up the power steering fluid, make sure that you don't forget to replace the filler cap back to the power steering reservoir. Make sure that when the engine is getting into the normal operating temperature, when the power steering fluid expanded, the the fluid will overflow from the power pump reservoir. So make sure that it is tightly tightened on the reservoir, the filler cap. The general procedure to follow when checking and adjusting power steering fluid is: prepare the steering system for a fluid check with the engine at normal idle speed. Okay, so the engine should be in idling speed for several minutes. They say from a couple of minutes to 5 minutes before you check the fluid. You should turn the steering wheel from lock to lock a number of times. This will ensure the fluid is hot and the lever is more accurate. So usually, when you're checking the transmission fluid, you check it when the engine is running and it reaches the normal operating temperature. So the power steering fluid is also the same. You have to reach the normal operating temperature before you check the the level of the power steering fluid. So by doing the steering wheel from lock to lock turning number of times, this will ensure the fluid is hot and the level is more accurate. So then you can turn off the engine to check the power steering level. So now you check the power steering fluid. Locate the power steering pump in your vehicle by checking the owner's manual or the service manual or the operator's manual. And screw the cap on top of the pump and check if the fluid reaches the full mark on the dipstick. Then you top up the steering fluid. If the level is low, check your owner's manual or shop manual to see what kind of fluid your power steering pump requires. and fill it to the proper level. If the vehicle has a plastic reservoir, check the markers to see if any fluid needs to be added. Remember that using the wrong type of fluid can result in damage to the various seals in the system. That's it for now for this topic. Thank you for watching.